Throughout history, the clash of armies, the cries of the vanquished and the ambitions of empires have all revolved around one constant invasion. It's the lifeblood of our historical narrative, a terrifying and thrilling spectacle that has made and unmade civilizations, redrawn maps in blood, and left us to ponder the what-ifs for centuries. From the ancient world to the modern era, the act of invasion, of one people imposing their will on another through force of arms, echoes through the corridors of time. These aren't just battles we're talking about, folks, but seismic shifts in the human story, events so profound that their ripples are still felt today. So buckle up, folks. Today, we're diving deep into the maelstrom, exploring 10 invasions that didn't just change history, they rewrote the damn script. Picture England in 1066. A land of Anglo-Saxon kings, a culture steeped in its own traditions, a world about to change forever. Enter William the Bastard, Duke of Normandy, with a claim to the English throne and the ambition to back it up. Hastings was more than just a battle, it was a clash of civilizations. Norman cavalry, disciplined in continental warfare, faced Anglo-Saxon foot soldiers, their shield wall a bulwark against the invaders. When the dust settled, England had a new king, a new ruling class, and a new destiny. The Norman conquest wasn't just a regime change, it was a cultural earthquake. Castles, symbols of Norman might, began to dot the landscape, forever altering the English skyline. The 13th century witnessed a storm like no other. Out of the steppes of Central Asia, the Mongols, led by Genghis Khan, exploded onto the world stage. Imagine the terror as the Mongol hordes swept across Asia and into Europe. These weren't just raiders, but highly disciplined warriors, masters of horseback warfare. Entire cities were reduced to rubble, their populations put to the sword. Amidst the devastation, the Mongols fostered trade, facilitated cultural exchange, and established a Pax Mongolica, a period of relative peace and stability across their vast domain. The year is 1519. In the heart of Mesoamerica, the Aztecs rule from their magnificent capital, Tenochtitlan. Enter Hernán Cortés, a Spanish conquistador driven by gold, glory, and a fervent belief in his own God-given right to conquer. With a handful of men, a few cannons, and ruthless ambition, Cortés marched into the heart of the Aztec Empire. It wasn't just about guns, germs, and steel. It was about exploiting existing divisions within the Aztec Empire. Picture the shock of the Aztecs as these pale-skinned strangers, wielding weapons of thunder and riding atop strange beasts, marched into their midst. Imagine the horror as smallpox, a European disease, ripped through the Aztec population. The siege of Tenochtitlan was a clash of civilizations like no other. In the end, the Aztec Empire lay in ruins, a cautionary tale of how quickly fortune can turn. Ah, Napoleon Bonaparte. The very name evokes images of battlefield genius. His story is a whirlwind of ambition, military brilliance, and ultimately, tragic overreach. From the battlefields of Italy to the snowy plains of Russia, Napoleon's armies marched, carrying with them the ideals of the French Revolution. These ideas ignited revolutions across Europe, shaking the old order to its core. But Napoleon's ambition knew no bounds. The invasion of Russia in 1812 proved to be his undoing. The vastness of Russia, the scorched earth tactics, and the brutal winter broke the back of Napoleon's Grande Armée. Napoleon's gamble to reshape Europe ultimately failed, but his impact is undeniable. The 1930s saw a darkness descend upon Asia as Imperial Japan set its sights on China. The Second Sino-Japanese War, intertwined with World War II, left an indelible scar on the region. Japan launched a brutal invasion of China in 1937, driven by a belief in their own racial superiority and a desire for resources. The Japanese army committed acts of unspeakable barbarity, but the Chinese people resisted. The war paved the way for the rise of Communist China and shaped the geopolitical landscape of the region for decades to come. September 1st, 1939, The world watched in horror as Nazi Germany unleashed its fury upon Poland. Blitzkrieg, lightning war, was the Nazi strategy. Tanks, planes and infantry operated in deadly concert, smashing through enemy lines. The Polish army, brave but outmatched, couldn't withstand the onslaught. The invasion of Poland shattered the illusion of peace and exposed the true nature of the Nazi regime. Within weeks, Europe was engulfed in war, a conflict that would claim millions of lives. It all started with that fateful invasion, a stark reminder of the fragility of peace. Afghanistan, the graveyard of empires. The Soviet Union would come to feel this weight all too well in 1979. What began as an attempt to prop up a faltering communist regime quickly turned into a quagmire. Soviet tanks rolled through the Khyber Pass, confident in their military might. But they underestimated the will of the Afghan people and the tenacity of the Mujahideen fighters. The Mujahideen waged a relentless campaign of ambushes, bombings, and hit-and-run attacks. The Soviet withdrawal in 1989 was a victory for the Afghan people, but it came at a terrible cost. Afghanistan lay in ruins, its social fabric torn apart, sowing the seeds of future conflicts. The Viking fury, terror from the North Sea. Imagine the terror that gripped coastal communities across Europe for centuries. Viking longships appeared out of the mist, their sails striped and menacing. The Vikings were explorers, traders and conquerors who left their mark on a vast swathe of territory. They sacked cities, seized treasures and took captives, their raids leaving a trail of destruction and fear. But the Viking impact went beyond mere raiding. They established settlements, from Iceland and Greenland to Normandy. The Viking Age was a time of upheaval, a reminder that even the most powerful empires are vulnerable to those bold enough to challenge them. D-Day, the tide turns at Normandy, June 6, 1944. On this day, the tide of World War II turned as Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy. Imagine the scale of the operation. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands of soldiers, all converging on a heavily fortified coastline. This wasn't just a battle, it was a desperate gamble to liberate Western Europe from Nazi tyranny. As the first waves of landing craft hit the beaches, all hell broke loose. Slowly, painstakingly, beach by beach, the Allies gained a foothold. The liberation of France had begun, paving the way for the eventual defeat of Nazi Germany. Constantinople, the city that bridged two worlds' falls. For over 1,000 years, Constantinople stood as a beacon of civilization. But in 1453, that reign came to an end with the thunder of Ottoman cannons. Sultan Mehmed II brought massive cannons capable of smashing through the formidable walls of Constantinople. For 53 days, the city held out, its defenders determined to fight for their faith and way of life. On May 29, 1453, the walls were breached and Ottoman soldiers poured into the city. Constantinople fell, marking the end of the Byzantine Empire and shifting the balance of power in the region. It changed the course of history, forever altering the relationship between East and West. Outro echoes of invasion, and there you have it, the top 10 invasions that changed history forever. From the blood-soaked beaches of Normandy to the crumbling walls of Constantinople, these events serve as chilling reminders of humanity's capacity for both destruction and resilience. These weren't just military campaigns, they were turning points, moments when the trajectory of civilizations shifted, when the maps were redrawn, and the course of history was forever altered. The echoes of these invasions, the stories of triumph and tragedy, of ambition and despair, continue to resonate today, reminding us of the fragility of peace, the enduring power of the human spirit, and the lessons we must learn from the past if we hope to build a better future.